Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Like William Randolph Hearst, proudly proclaiming, "You supply the cardboard and dice, and I'll supply the war game." This is the Discriminating Gamer. Say, kids, do you like that Battlestar Galactica, the board game, with the hidden traitors, the Cylons, the crises? Of course you do. Who doesn't? It's a great game. Well, recently a game came out that attempts to give you that exact same feel of Battlestar Galactica, but in about half the time. I am, of course, talking about Dark Moon from Stronghold Games. In Dark Moon from Stronghold Games, 3 to 7 players attempt to solve a series of crises on the remote moon of Titan, which is a moon, of course, of the planet Saturn. What happens in this game, ladies and gentlemen, is you're all different characters working on this kind of space station, this moon station on a mine. But one or more of you is infected. Actually, probably more of you are infected. And you're attempting to kind of sabotage the survival of everyone on the base. Now, you all have your characters, and the board has kind of 3 areas where things can go wrong. You have kind of your shield zone, which is kind of starts at 2 damage, and it can get worse, and if it gets all the way there, you all die. It's got kind of your outpost systems, and you've got to think about 6 systems there. If you get all of those systems on there, you all die. You've also got kind of the infirmary, where people are going because they're sick, they're fatigued, as they're said. Well, if 6 players get fatigued, guess what? You all die. And this is exactly what the hidden traitor wants. Now, again, beginning of the game, you're going to be dealt out a card which either says you are infected or you are not affected. And depending on the number of players, it's going to determine how many are infected and how many are not infected. Now, what you're going to do is, first of all, you're going to select randomly a final crisis card. You're going to put that on the camera 4 section. So that's the last thing you're going to have to do, and that's usually a pretty scary thing. But at the beginning of the game, you're going to select one character to be the commander. And the commander is going to go ahead and select 2 crisis cards. He's going to look at each of them, and then he's going to secretly pick one to put on the board, put the other one at the bottom of the deck. Because he may be a bad guy. He may be purposely selecting a bad card, a hard card for you to fulfill as your crisis. But each player is also going to get some dice. They're going to get a couple of black dice, which are strong, and red dice, which are weak. The commander is also going to get a blue dice, which is the strongest dice of all. Each of these dice have a bunch of -2s, 1 -1, and then there's going to be 2 positive numbers. These are going to be bigger numbers for the strong dice, lighter numbers for the weak dice, the red dice, and of course the blue dice, the commander dice, has the strongest positive numbers of all. Now, what you're going to do is, on your turn, you have several options for things you can do as an action. First of all, you can attempt to repair something. You can attempt to repair the shield, take away some of the damage. You can attempt to repair something on the outpost. You can attempt to heal someone, get them out of their fatigued state. Generally, what you're going to do is you're going to roll a die, and if that die comes up with a positive number, then you succeed in your mission, and the particular thing you're trying to repair is repaired. If it's negative, nothing happens. If you suspect one of your fellows is infected and you kind of want to isolate them, you can go ahead and call for a vote to quarantine them. What you do is you essentially say, "I nominate this person. I think they're infected," and everybody puts a dice in their hand and extends their hand. Now, depending on what color dice they put in the center, whether it's red or black, they're infected or not infected. So if players maybe want to vote but they don't have the right color dice for it, that can be a problem. Now, if you are found to be infected, you are quarantined, and that limits some of your future options. You can issue orders. Essentially, you can try to give 2 actions to another player. Maybe play to their strengths, since each character has different abilities and strengths. You can reveal yourself as an infected. This is not something you want to do early on in the game, but toward the end of the game, you'll gain some additional abilities, so it might behoove you toward the end of the game to reveal yourself as infected in the hopes of kind of really sealing the fate of the entire crew. Now, at the beginning of your turn, before you've taken the actions, you've made sure you've kind of brought your hand up, or rather your dice hand up, to all the dice you need. Usually your hand size is 4 dice. Some things may make you have more, sometimes things may make you have less. But you always bring your dice up at the beginning of your turn before you take your actions. Now, the last thing you do on your turn is you have to fulfill a task, or at least attempt to fulfill a task. Again, you draw 2 task cards, and there's a black deck or a gray deck, depending on how many players you've got, but you draw 2 of these cards, and again, you select one you want to try, the other one you want to put at the bottom of the deck. And again, you may, if you're the traitor, if you're infected, you may want to pick a harder mission here, something that's harder to fulfill. Well, what you do is, it may say it needs a certain number of positive numbers to be rolled in order to succeed. It may need, a 7 or a 5 or what have you. And then it's going to say what the conditions are if that card fails. You may take shield damage. People may be fatigued. You may gain outpost problems. So what you're doing then is everybody's going to say around the table whether they are in or whether they are out. And they put a little token in saying, yeah, I'm in, or I'm out. Everybody who is in then rolls their dice secretly behind their screen, and then they can secretly choose one of those dice to add to the game there. Well, then you take that number and you move a little cube along the track, and you try to hit that target number with everybody's combined. But everybody who said they was in has to roll. So some people, the odds are against you. The odds are you're going to be rolling negative numbers. But you can keep rolling, but every time you roll, you have to add a dice. And remember, you may need dice for other things, so you don't want to necessarily be losing all your die just trying to keep everybody afloat with a specific task. But you may need to. So after you've gone around, you rolled, you determine whether or not you passed the task or you haven't. So if you complete a task, you go ahead, you put a blue cube on the event. Once all the cube spots in the event are done, you've completed that, you fulfill any conditions that are on there, and then you move on to the next event. Again, there are 2 cards are drawn. One of those cards is chosen by the commander. If you fail the task, then, of course, whatever consequences there were, you have to deal with those. Now, also, some of the task cards will say suspicious activity. If cards come up and say suspicious activity, you're going to move kind of a red cube along a track. When it gets to the end of that track, you have to have a vote to vote on someone whether or not to quarantine them. You don't have a choice. You have to vote to quarantine. You have to call the vote to quarantine, and then everybody has to decide whether or not they want to vote on that. So essentially, that's the game. You're going around and around, taking actions, trying to repair the space station, trying to keep your head above water, while all the time you are also doing these tasks, which are just throwing you up against the wall, and you're knowing that one or more of your fellow players is actively working against you, they are actively want you to fail. Now, there's a lot more going on here, but essentially, if you end up losing in any one of those spots, in the shields, in the outpost, if everybody gets fatigued, then the infected win the game because they've killed everybody. But if you can survive all the way through to the final event, that final crisis, and complete it, then the good guys survive and win Dark Moon. So I want to discuss Dark Moon, first of all, in 2 ways. First of all, I want to talk about it as a successor to Battlestar Galactica. That is to say, do I think this game is a successor? Do I think it has replaced? Do I think this game killed Battlestar Galactica for me? And let me be blunt, let me just say this, pulling no punches, absolutely not. Battlestar Galactica is probably my second favorite game of all time. Last 2 years is my second favorite game of all time. I don't know what it's going to be this year, but I can assure you it's still probably going to be in the top 10. I love Battlestar Galactica. Now, this game was, as I say, originally it was called BSG Express. I think it was a print and play, and it was designed to do this thing. But, instead of using the cards, it'll be faster by using dice. Stronghold got a hold of it. They had to retheme it, of course, because they didn't have the IP. But they put this out there with the idea that it's Battlestar Galactica, but it's in half the time. But I love Battlestar Galactica. I don't think I've ever played a game that's theme so perfectly fit the IP. Battlestar Galactica, the TV show, was just all about this creeping paranoia and these larger-than-life characters. And the game just captured that. They just were able to put the TV show in a box, and I love the TV show, and I love how they were able to do that with the game. Now, again, too, the virtue of Dark Moon is that it's a shorter game than Battlestar Galactica. Now, all things being equal, everybody is pressed for time, and they may not have 3 or 4 hours to play a longer game. But all things being equal, I love longer games. I would rather play a really long, fun game than a bunch of shorter, fun games. That's just me. I love long games when I got the time, when I can make them work. That's my preference. So in all of these respects, I do not think this game in any way diminishes or takes away from or replaces Battlestar Galactica. I just think it can't. Now, I want to take a look at Dark Moon on its own merits. Let me say this right now. Dark Moon is a very, very fun game. I really, really like it. It like I say, doesn't replace Battlestar Galactica, but of course you do get that great hidden traitor paranoia that comes with this game. Last game I played, as we were setting up, as the commander was looking at those 2 cards, first accusation started to fly. Oh, come on, you're infected. You're trying to screw us over. And I love those games. I love games like that because they laugh and you get scared, and they're just so much fun. This game does it very, very well. You can definitely tell it owes a lot to Battlestar Galactica. The way it works, it's very much a game that owes so much to Battlestar Galactica. As its own game, though, it works quite well, and it is quick. And so I think people that don't have a lot of time, which is me a lot of the time, are really going to appreciate this. They're going to appreciate playing this fun, paranoia-driven game that's relatively quick. I think, because it is shorter, a lot of the nuance that you get with Battlestar is gone. Here I go, comparing it to Battlestar again. A lot of the nuances are gone, but kind of the basic feelings of paranoia and the basic mechanics of we're trying to keep our head above water, and the game keeps hitting us, keeps hitting us. Oh, there we go. We can breathe again, but somebody's pushing us back down. You get that, and I love that. This Dark Moon is a really fun game. I would say buy Battlestar Galactica over this game, but if you don't have the time, or if you have Battlestar Galactica and you like it and you're looking for other fun hidden traitor games, I think this is a great one. I really like Dark Moon. I think it's a very, very fun game, and I'm going to play it again and again and again. So the recommendation from the Discriminating Gamer for Dark Moon is undoubtedly buy it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. We are The Discriminating Gamer. And speaking of the moons of Saturn, have you ever seen Mimas? I mean, Mimas is wild. Mimas looks exactly, and I'm not kidding you, exactly like the Death Star. It looks, there it is. Did you see it? It looks exactly like the Death Star. It's like George Lucas was like, I want to make a spaceship. That moon looks like it could be a spaceship. Anyway, goodbye.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
You gotta roll it again and get a positive 2.
So why does he get to keep rolling?
Because it's the only way we're gonna get through this.
Oh, he's losing his dice. Oh, when he's done that, huh?
What do you got?
Yeah!
Oh, yes! Yes!